Hello again. I'm going to talk about workplace bullying, and one aspect in particular that I think is quite insightful, and I'll tell you where I got the idea from. I've been down to Queenstown visiting a new client and doing some leadership and team workshops down there. Great group of people. And I was driving back from the airport, put the radio on, and there's one of these call-in programs. Now, I know they try to rile people up to phone in, which I didn't. But they had an expert, apparently, on workplace bullying. And he said a couple of things I agree with and some things I'm not so sure about. So let's talk about that. First thing he said was that workplace bullying is a very complicated area. And yeah, I would agree with that because pretty much anything to do with people is complicated. And then he gave an example of how a manager could behave in exactly the same way towards two people, but they perceive it, experience it in very different ways. Their emotional reaction to it is very different because one person may be very resilient and tough. The other could be more fragile. And again, that's true. I'm not sure it excuses the next example he gave, though, because apparently it's perfectly understandable that a manager could get frustrated and lose their temper and raise their voice or shout at somebody if they keep doing something wrong or they're not performing to the level that's required. And so here's 5 reasons why it's a really bad idea to shout at people. First one is, it's just wrong. It is plain wrong. And people say, well, back in the day. Yeah, but back in the day it was wrong. You just got away with it, okay? And it's particularly wrong if you are in a position of authority. And authority comes in 2 ways. So if I am officially your manager, I have that authority. It's just not okay for me to use that authority to vent my anger on you, knowing that you can't respond because of that, power position. But there are other types of authority. So there's authority you get from, I've been here longer, I'm older, I've got more experience, I've got more skill, I'm physically bigger. That's a worrying one, isn't it? Okay. Now, that leads us on to the second reason, okay, which is it's risky because if you have authority, and again, I've got to be careful. I'm not an HR specialist. We do have a great HR specialist in the network. Perhaps I should have talked to her first. But my understanding is that most legislation around the world makes a point of stressing that if you are in a position of authority, you do need to be careful about how you go about things. So it's risky. It's risky to you and it's risky to the organization. So number 1, it's wrong. Number 2, it's risky because you're putting yourself at real risk of finding yourself on the wrong side of anti-bullying legislation. Third reason, and what I've got written on the piece of paper here is ineffective, but actually it's just stupid because if you are a teenage ranter, then people are going to be far less likely to come to you for advice or support or admit they're struggling. They're also, if they do make a mistake, they're going to try and cover it up. Run away from it, all these kind of things. So it's terribly ineffective in terms of the effectiveness of your team. Fourth one is it's viral, and it's viral in 2 ways. One is if I'm a manager up here and I rant at my managers, it's, there's a distinct possibility that I'm just saying it's okay to rant. So they'll shout at theirs and they'll shout at theirs and it goes right down through the organization. But it's viral in another way that a lot of people don't realised, and this is a kind of social complexity argument which we look at quite a lot, and that is that if I go to work every day and I've got a boss who rants and shouts at me continually, all that kind of anger and frustration will build up, and it's not unreasonable, is that word again, to think that I might vent that in another context, either with my colleagues or at home. So if you are a ranter, you've got to think about the consequences could go far wider and further than you think. Okay. The last one is that it's totally undermining for you because when we run workshops, a lot of our stuff, some of our stuff is based on, research theory, but a lot of it is based on, we've been doing this for over 20 years and we talk to a lot of people. So one of the things that we do is we have a list, of these are things to do if you want to establish yourself as a leader. So it's very practical. Do these things and that will help to establish you as a leader. If you do these things, it will completely undermine you as a leader and your brand and credibility as a leader. And guess where ranting at people goes? It's firmly on this side. And if you think about it, if you were on a plane and the captain is hysterical, angry, ranting when something goes wrong, you'd get off the plane, wouldn't you? Unfortunately, if you're at 30,000 feet, you can't really do that. But you see what I mean? When something goes wrong, when the pressure's on, people look to you as a leader or to the experienced people in the team to be the calm people, the reassuring people, not the hysterical teenage ranters. Anyway, there is 5 reasons why shouting at people is a really bad idea. And it is something that some people struggle with, and we can provide coaching around that and all kinds of tools and ideas, same kind of thing we use with high performance athletes. So if you want to talk to us about our workshops, whether that be leadership or well-being or team performance, then get in touch. What we like to do ideally is work across whole organizations. It's a great way to generate real culture change and performance change, and we'll talk soon.